Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another 13 days of Halloween Tumbler tutorial. In this video, we're going to do a new kind of variation on a Tumbler tutorial I posted recently, the double peekaboo floral tumbler that I made for you guys a few weeks ago. You guys really loved that video and I'm so glad you did because we're doing it again for Halloween. Bailey would also like to tell you that this is going to be a good video. So in this video, we're going to take that original concept and design idea, and we're going to do a few things differently and make it very much Halloween. I really love how this tumbler turned out, and I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. If you do, please hit that thumbs up button down below. It really helps my channel out, and I appreciate it so much. And if you are not subscribed to my channel yet, hit that subscribe button while you're down there so you don't miss any of my new videos. I typically upload videos every Tuesday and Saturday. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I think that's it. I hope you like it. Let's go! We're starting with a 30-ounce skinny straight tumbler. This is one with a screw-on lid. So I base painted it with my matte black spray paint from Rust-Oleum, and now I'm going in with my epoxy method to apply my glitter. So I'm taking about 2 milliliters of epoxy and just spreading a thin layer all over my tumbler. Okay, so we've got a very thin layer of epoxy on our tumbler. We're going to glitter using a color from the July Peachy palette. This is Guardians. And it's like a fine cut, like a gunmetal holographic spacey black. Kind of reminds me of Prometheus. And we're just going to go all over the tumbler with this color. You can use any black you want or any color you want. This is just going to be the background or the in-between color for our peekaboo stripes. So I would just use a fine cut, but whatever color you want is fine. Once my glitter layer was dry, I sealed it with my Crystalac glitter glue and water mixture, and then I added 2 coats of epoxy to my tumbler. Now before we cut out our template for our peekaboo, we want to make sure that we have it sized accordingly. We've got glitter and epoxy on our tumbler, so it's going to be wider obviously than it would be if we had just gone on plain stainless steel. So before I cut my template out, I'm going to measure the width of my cup with the epoxy on it. But we're gonna go for we're about 10 1/4, maybe a little more. So I'm gonna cut my template out at 10 1/2 inches wide, and that should give us a decent amount of overlap and protect from the, spacing or gaps or whatever. You guys know I love my stencil vinyl, but on black glitter, the blue stencil vinyl is really hard to find. So I cut my template out of yellow permanent vinyl, and hopefully it's easy to peel up. These are relatively simple lines, so it should be okay. So we're gonna go through and just remove every other stripe. Now remember, for this middle part, we want the wording to be the black glitter showing through, so we want to mask that off. So we're going to remove this big section of vinyl so that we're left with just our decal quote in the middle. And now we're going to use our transfer tape to apply this entire thing to our tumbler. So once I put my transfer tape on, I'm going to cut away all of this excess backing from around the template just to make it easier for us to apply to the tumbler. Now when I place this, I'm going to try my best. This is usually pretty hard for me. But I'm going to try to line up these straight grid marks with the straight edge of the template. All right, it's not perfect, but it's better than I've done it in the past. I want to keep everything as straight as possible, so I'm going to use my paper trimmer so I can cut my straight lines. So now I'm going to remove this. Now this is kind of awkward to do, but I'm going to cut off just this backing portion, and I'm going to leave the transfer tape exposed. All right, so we're going to make sure that everything's oriented the right way. This is right side up. This is the top of our cup. Don't make that mistake. I've done that before. And now I'm going to apply the template to the tumbler, and I'm just going to try to keep everything as even as possible and as lined up as I can get it. So what we're looking for here is for all of these lines to be lined up perfectly. We're going to tape off the bottom as well, so don't worry about that. What we really want is for these middle lines to line up right. So I'm just going to go little by little here, making sure that nothing gets messed up during application. Now these top and bottom pieces really don't matter. Again, we just want these to be right. These top and bottom pieces are really just spacers. So as long as they're there and they're lined up, it's okay. Don't forget to remove your transfer tape before you lay the rest of your stencil down. You don't want to lay your vinyl over your transfer tape, obviously. Make sure everything meets. And now we can go through and carefully remove the transfer tape. Now you want to keep the leverage when you're pulling your transfer tape. You want to pull as tightly to the point you're pulling away from. You don't want to pull like this, because that will cause your vinyl to lift and then put bubbles in there. And we don't want any lifting or bubbles in your vinyl, because we don't want any spray paint to get down into these spots where we don't want it to be. So you want to pull really tightly. Keep that lever really short as you pull, and that will prevent bubbles in your vinyl. And now for the top and bottom, the top is okay because this line is straight and that's really all we care about. But for the bottom, this is lined up straight as well, which is good. But I'm going to take some blue painter's tape and I'm going to tape it further down on the bottom so that we can protect the very bottom of our tumbler. Right, so now we're ready to apply our paints. Now, what we're going to do differently from the first video that I made using this similar technique is we are going to do each of these a different color and a different glitter color over that. So we're going to stick with obviously a Halloween color palette, but I wanted to kind of change it up a little bit and do some different colors in here. So for our paint colors, we're going to use paint and glitter colors, I guess. We're going to use purple, lime green, and orange. So we're going to do purple on these two bigger stripes, a tiny little lime green stripe here, and then we're going to do our main big section with orange glitter. So the glitters I've chosen are Barney, the Swamp, and Kermit, all from Peachy Olive Glitters. And then the base paints we're going to use are Deep Sunset. This is Pop of Color. Papaya Orange, also Pop of Color. And Gecko from the Delta Creative Ceram Coat brand. So I'm just going to paint all of these and then we will glitter them later. let the first coat of paint dry for about 30 minutes and then I went in and did a second coat. Now for the second coat of our middle orange section, I actually changed my paint. I switched to a kind of like coral Delta Cerium Coat acrylic paint. I just really didn't like the coverage of the orange pop of color paint over the black, so I wanted something a little bit more opaque. Our paint is pretty much dry now, so we're going to go through section by section and glitter our sections. I'm going to be using the Crystal glitter glue for this. You can use epoxy method or whatever adhesive you prefer, but I'm going to use the glitter glue, my fave. So what we're going to do is essentially work from darkest to lightest, and we don't have a lot of colors here, but we're going to go orange first because that's our biggest section. We're just going to get that out of the way. Then we're going to do our purple, and then we'll do our green last because that's our smallest section and our lightest section. And this will probably be easier to get out or camouflage than these two being in the green, if that makes sense. So we're going to start with our orange and then just work our way through. And actually what I think I'm going to do is just do this orange section. We'll peel up the decal right away, and then we're going to let this sit and dry so that we can, if we need to, we can brush any excess away and not ruin our glittered portion. And we'll just do this in stages to make sure that everything looks as clean as possible. What I should have done, I got too excited. I'm just going to wipe this off here. Should have marked this off. So I'm going through and ruining this paint pen, but I just need something quick to help me find these decals under here. Okay, hopefully that makes finding my decals easier, and I will clean this little pen up and he will be just fine. All right, so we're going in with the swamp. Okay, so you can see where I scratched that off. Luckily I did that, or I would never find that decal under there. So don't forget, you can use your hot glue dots or you can use your Sharpie or whatever. Just make sure you do that before you glitter. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull these right away. I don't want this glitter glue to dry, but I just want to be really super ginger and careful as I do it because I don't want to mess up my glitter. Now, this is another reason I did the yellow vinyl. It's a lot easier to find, even if you scrape the glitter away, than the dark blue vinyl would have been. Now, luckily, like I said, this is a really big, pretty solid section, so we don't have to worry about being as careful as we would if we were doing some smaller, more intricate decals. Of course, you still want to be careful, but it's not going to be as stressful of an experience as if we were, you know, pulling up tiny, tiny little details. And this is permanent vinyl, so it's harder to pull up. As you can see, I'm having a hard time. This is why I like stencil vinyl. But anyway, they both have their pros and cons. Okay, so it's definitely not perfect, but we can clean up the inside of the decal once everything's dried and it will look a whole lot better. So I'm just going to sit and let this dry for a couple hours and then we'll move on to our next steps. Okay, it's been overnight. Our orange glitter is dry now, so I'm going to go through and try and clean up this middle section the best I can with my chip brush. Just brushing away all of this excess glitter that's inside of our decal area. I'm also going to brush off anything around the edges where it's not supposed to be. Just clean this up a little bit. Now, because this is dry, you can go in and really like clean it up. And one thing I am going to do, just because I don't really like the way it looks, I'm going to go through and I'm just going to scrape off these little areas of glue and paint that are in the middle. They just don't look right to me, and some of them got messed up, so I'm going to clear those out. That's totally personal preference. Now remember, we're going to epoxy this a lot more times, so don't worry if you've got little like scratch marks or cut lines or anything. Those will go away by the end. So now I'm going to go in with my towel, my dirty towel, and I'm just going to wipe off the inside section. Just clean up any residue or anything that might be left on there. Just make sure it looks as clean and as crisp as possible. The good thing is that this glitter underneath that we used is pretty holographic, so it's got a lot of colors going on, which means that if there are any orange little flecks of glitter that are stray, it doesn't really matter because it's going to just blend in. And I realized here that I missed an entire stencil portion. Whoops. Okay, everything's fine. So now we're going to move on and do our purple section, and then we'll do our green section. And again, for the glitter on our purple section, we're using Barney from Peachy Olive Glitters. And as I do this, I'm just trying to be really careful not to get any of Barney into the orange or green sections. Now, I didn't wait for the purple glitter to dry before I went in and did the green. I just did it right after, and I did the same thing. I used the glitter glue. And again, the glitter that I'm using for the green section is Kermit from Peachy Olive Glitters. So now that we've got all of our glitter applied, we can go through and remove our painter's tape and all of our vinyl that's on our cup. We really want to remove this right away. One, because it's permanent vinyl, and the longer you let it sit, the harder it's going to be to remove. And two, we don't want the glitter and the glue and everything to dry over that vinyl, because that will make it even harder to pull up. So I recommend doing this right away as soon as you're done glittering. Okay, there we go. First layer is done. Now we're going to let this dry, and then we will seal each section and epoxy over it. So after the glitter layer was dry, again, I sealed each section individually with my glitter glue and water mixture, and then I added another 2 coats of epoxy onto my tumbler. So this is going to be a thick and heavy gal, but in the end, I think it's totally worth it. So we have got a totally smooth and shiny tumbler. This is really, really important for this next step, because the next step is to apply our transparent BATS vinyl. This is from Peachy Olive Glitters, this sheet of vinyl, and I cut it out according to the template I created. I will have that template listed on my website if you want to use the exact same one, and I'll link my previous double peekaboo video in the description if you want to see exactly how to create the template. Really, if you want to use a different decal or different theme or whatever, I go over that in that video, so I'm not going to cover it in this video because I've already done it. So be sure to check that out if you haven't seen it already. But basically what I'm doing here is taking each strip of the transparent BATS vinyl and I'm lining it up with the colored peekaboo sections that we have already done with our glitter. So I'm going to do my thinner stripes first just by hand, and then for the larger middle section, I'm going to use my transfer tape. So before I do that, I need to weed out my decal because we don't want the bats to cover the black peekaboo portion for our decal. So I'm going to weed that out of the middle, and then I'm going to cut out all of this excess vinyl from around the middle section that I need, apply my transfer tape, and then we can apply this big sheet all at once to the middle section of our tumbler. Now, if you wanted to, you could just cut out a bunch of black bats, like a bunch of just
regular vinyl bats and place them all over your tumbler. That's definitely an option if you don't want to use the clear vinyl. But in my opinion, for me, using the clear vinyl was just an easier process overall. But if you're somebody who doesn't like to wrap cups with vinyl, or you just want to use a little bit of a different method, you could totally cut your bats out of regular vinyl and place them by hand or in little sections or whatever to achieve this same look. But for me, the pattern vinyl is always an easier option. So now once I've got this on, I'm going to go through and get rid of any air bubbles or bumps or anything that I have. So I'm cutting little holes in those air pockets to release the air. And now on the back seam, I'm going to go through and cut away all of these half bats from the back. And then I had this spare decal. This is also from Peachy Olive Glitters. That is just like a cluster of bats. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to cut out the bats individually one by one and then place those in those bare areas that I cut out where the half bats were, because I want this to look as seamless as possible. So I'm just going to cut a few of those out, fill in all of that empty space, and then you'll never be able to tell that it wasn't seamless to begin with. The next thing we need to do is add our inlay decal to that middle peekaboo section. So the decal we're using says it's Fricken bats. I love Halloween. I don't know if you guys have seen that Vine. I'm sure you have. It's so popular. It's one of my favorites. It makes me laugh every time. I love it so much. So this SVG is available on my website by itself, by the way, if you would like to purchase it without the template, but it will also come with the template for this tumbler if you want to remake the exact same thing. So the peekaboo that we did for this tumbler is the offset of the decal, and I did that so that you could see that black glitter underneath and then do the like inlay decal with the vinyl, so you can see the black and then you have the decal that's easy to read. So finally what we need to do is add our black striping to each of our peekaboo stripes. I cut these out at 0.08 inches in width and they're just regular black vinyl, and I'm going to outline each stripe one by one just to give it a really nice finished look. Once that's done, I'm going to seal all of my vinyl with a coat of polyacrylic, and then I'm going to add my final 2 coats of epoxy. So that's it for this tutorial. Here is the final design. I didn't do anything with the screw-on lid. I don't really know what I want to do yet, so I just left it plain. But anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I had a ton of fun making this cup. I love it so much, and I hope that you guys do too. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, of course. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you tomorrow for another Halloween video. Okay, thanks for watching as always. I love you so much, and that's it. Bye.